Shalom Uvracha, and welcome to Yeshiva Shalmaila and to this week's headline show. My name is Yehoshua Pfeffer from Yerushalayim, and I'm filling in this week for Rav David, who's been away here in Eretz Yisrael. So this week we'll be discussing the essence of the Yomim Noraim, days that are literally just around the corner, and we'll be speaking about what they mean for our own avodah, both in terms of preparation for the days and in terms of navigating the days themselves. As we know, these are auspicious times, days full of opportunity, but also full of challenge. And speaking about the challenges and the opportunities, we're going to have the privilege of hosting Hagoyin Reuven Leuchter Shlita. Rabbi Leuchter is a renowned Mashgichim and currently Rosh Kolel in Yerushalayim. He's authored several volumes, and among them an extremely popular small book on Tshuva, which is called Tshuva, Restoring Life. As a matter of full disclosure, I should mention Rabbi Leuchter is also my father-in-law, so of course it's a very special chus to have him here on the show. We'll also be hosting Rabbi Yitzchok Feldheim. Rabbi Feldheim is a known lecturer and a known Machshava in Lakewood, New Jersey, and I'm sure that between these two illustrious and special guests, we'll receive important insights and a lot of spiritual food for thought towards the Yomim Noraim ahead. Now, just by way of introduction, when I speak with a family about the Yomim Noraim that are coming up, I often refer to the Yemei Adin as Yemei Achrayus, meaning days of responsibility. And I find that the idea of taking responsibility helps us to place the concept of Din, which refers to the whole set of Yom Noraim. Rosh Hashanah, of course, is Yom Hadin in Chazal, and even Yom Kippur is the Gemara Din. On Yom Kippur we say B'zeh Yom Hadin, also part of the Din. And the idea of responsibility places the Din into perspective. The basic idea of Din is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes the world seriously. Right? Din, judgment, means that things are not free-for-all. Things are serious. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants something from the world. And as we say on Rosh Hashanah, that something is Malchus Shamayim. And the Din is that it's our responsibility, it's up to us to make that purpose of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from the world actually come about, to actually fulfill that purpose. So the Yomim Noraim are an opportunity for us to renew our relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to ensure that we're taking responsibility for our part of that relationship. That's maybe why Parshas Nitzavim, which we're going to read this Shabbos, always comes before Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara in Megillah speaks about Ezra Sofer, who enacted that Parshas Kisavai, the Klalos of Mishnah Torah, should be always read before Rosh Hashanah. And Tosfos over there asks that surely we have also Parshas Nitzavim, which always comes between Kisavai and Rosh Hashanah. And Tosfos offers a couple of answers as to why that should be. But another suggestion could be that the bris of Nitzavim, right? Nitzavim is a bris, is a renewal of the covenant between Klal Yisrael and the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And Dafka the bris of Nitzavim, which is made by Moshe Rabbeinu, Dafka highlights our responsibility, personal responsibility, to keeping our side of the covenant. Moshe Rabbeinu declares that the bris applies to each and every individual, both who were there and who is not there, right? Asher yeshnu po imanu umeid hayoim lifnei Hashem Elokeinu, v'et asher einenu po imanu hayoim. And then at the end he concludes that it's our responsibility of each and every one of us to uphold the bris, right? And historis la Hashem Elokeinu v'aniglos lanu ulefoneinu ad olam. Laz is kol divrei haTorah azos. Right? Chazal derive from Nitzavim also the idea of Arvus, meaning we're responsible not only for our part of the bris, but even for the part of others. And straight away from the bris of Nitzavim, the Torah moves on to the potential, the possibility of tshuva and of rachamim. Right? Ki yavo alecha kol hadvarim ha'ele, habracha ve'aklala. After we'll have the brachos and Chosh v'Shalom we'll have the klalos. Then v'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha. Then we'll do tshuva, and then the pasuk says, "V'shav Hashem Elokecha eshvuscha v'richamecha." HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have rachamim for us, meaning insofar as we're a part of the bris, after we Mechaber the bris, right? All of us, those who were there, and for all generations, if we're a part of that din, part of that responsibility for keeping the bris, then we can also move on to tshuva and to rachamim. And the same is true for the Yomim Noraim. The first day of the Aseret Yemei Tshuva is a Yom Adin, is Rosh Hashanah. That's the first part of tshuva, is to be a part of the din. Once you take that responsibility, you're a part of Rosh Hashanah, then you can also reach the rachamim of Yom Kippur. Rabbi Salanta speaks about the order of these 2 days, but based on this idea. So if we're a part of the din, then we can also be a part of the rachamim. The relationship, the way in which we operate in the world begins from the din. And the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, he tells us how deeply this responsibility, this din, actually goes. In the beginning, the Rambam tells us to think of ourselves as though our count of mitzvahs and averos is precisely balanced. It's exactly 50-50. So our tshuva will decide between the two, meaning we're responsible for our own fate. We decide between those two sides. But then the Rambam continues and he says that we should see as though the count of mitzvahs and averos of our whole city, and then he says even of the entire world, is exactly balanced. It's 50-50. So our tshuva, right, each one of us, his personal tshuva will decide the fate of the whole city, of the entire world. That's how deep our sense of responsibility has to be, based on the Rambam. In the Gemara in Bava Metzia and Daf Yud Beis, the Gemara teaches us that godless, right, great personal greatness, really depends on taking responsibility. The Gemara said that someone who's a gadol, meaning a gadol in years, but if he doesn't take responsibility for himself, if he's samach al shulchan aviv, he's still reliant on his father, then he's considered a katan. And on the other hand, a katan, someone who's still young, he's still a minor, but he's responsible for himself, he's samach al shulchan atzmoi, then he's considered a gadol. A truly great person, right? A real gadol is a person with great responsibility, right? Godless is a factor of responsibility. Now, taking responsibility isn't easy. Sometimes it's very tough, it's very challenging. It doesn't come lightly to take responsibility. But the flip side of that is that it's also deeply fulfilling. It's also profoundly rewarding. Somebody who takes responsibility for himself, kal v'chomer for his family, or for his community, or even beyond his community, he feels a deep sense of fulfillment. Right? In surveys, why is it important for people to receive promotions, to move up in their jobs? Many people will give the first reason because of greater responsibilities. Responsibilities are tough, but that's what we're here for. Responsibility is how we're zoiche bedin. And being zoiche bedin is where we start from. That's Rosh Hashanah. That's where we begin. So on the Yomim Noraim, we're called to take responsibility for Malchus Shamayim, to renew our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. As it were, these are days, the beginning of the year, where we have an opportunity to reset, right? We think about our maisim, we think about our amida, the way we stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we really reset our relationship with Hashem, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the deeper our responsibility, right? Chazal say, for example, that we should be ish shat tzibur tzrichim loi. It's a great scholar to be somebody that the tzibur requires. We have deeper responsibility. So the deeper that runs, the deeper our schia in din.
And with that, we move on to our very first guest for today's show. As mentioned, we're privileged to have with us HaRav Reuven Leuchter, Shlita. Rabbi Leuchter, as mentioned, is a renowned Mashgiach, Rosh today in Yerushalayim, and one of the leading Talmidim who continues the legacy of HaRav Shlomo Wolbe, the Kolel, one of the leading and most brilliant Mashgichim of our contemporary generation. So, Leuchter, thank you very, very much for being with us today. It's really a privilege and a pleasure. And if I can start off with perhaps a general question, which I feel many people are disturbed by or perhaps wonder about. I can say perhaps from a personal angle. My daughter, who is in school, comes back from school, and she's visibly disturbed by some of the kind of messages that the teachers give her in the lessons about Rosh Hashanah. A lot of the education, a lot of the themes surrounding Rosh Hashanah center on fear, center on the Eimas Hadin. Some of the teachers speak about how it's possible, you never know if this may be your last Rosh Hashanah. For some people, last year was the last Rosh Hashanah. And the question is whether this approach, as an educational approach, and I leave it to Emes, is this really the correct approach to Rosh Hashanah? On the one hand, of course, it is Yom Adin, and we have an Emas Adin. But on the other hand, the focus on Pachad, on fear, and on trembling before what might happen, and who knows if this might be our last Rosh Hashanah, is often very stifling, even paralyzing. Meaning this kind of fear stops us and perhaps prevents us or makes it difficult for us to attach ourselves to the potential of the day, to the closeness to Kadosh Baruch Hu of the day, to standing before Hashem, to the relationship with Hashem. How would you say we balance these things? What is the approach concerning the Emas Adin that we should take towards Rosh Hashanah?
Okay, I hear that. I didn't know that this is still going on in the Beis Yankov. Very interesting. But I already years I'm not in touch with that education. But I want to tell you one thing, which is a very basic thing. And I think this basic approach on Midas Hadin of Hashem and the basic approach towards everything which is the interaction from Hashem to us is that there is a background of the whole thing that Hashem is interested in us. And that especially is very important for Rosh Hashanah. Because Rosh Hashanah is the day Hashem created the human being, or the Mauritian. So this creation of a human being is coming back every single year. So you do understand yourself that someone is going into a business only when he has an interest in the business. No one enters a business when he's not interested in that general aspect of that business. Now, Rosh Hashanah is exactly that day where Hashem is going into the business with every single person again for this year. And this is the Oimek Hadin, that he looks at the human being and thinks, am I interested in him? And this background of an interest from Hashem towards us is very important. And that takes away from that cold, unrelating punishment which is there, which you only feel that basically I'm standing on my own, I did my actions, and the actions perhaps were not perfect, and now I'm standing with my actions which are not perfect, and I will be terribly punished for that. No, that's not the point. Hashem looks at the person and say, okay, you did all the year what you did, but now, you know what? I want to be interested in you. That for sure is depending on what you did. But basically, it depends on the same day. We have Rabbi Hananel on Rosh Hashanah, which he says that Ba'asher Ushom means the Beroilom is done the person, not on what he did in the past, and not what he will do in the future. He's done the person only on that day itself. So you can never have a din without any file. You have to have a file. You go through the file and you go through the actions the person did, and then you make a din. And then Rabbi Hananel comes and says, no, there are no actions which are relevant. We don't look in the past. We don't look into the future. That's on that Gemara there where it says by Yishmael, Ba'asher Ushom. The Rabbi Hananel brings not in the past, not your past actions and not the future will influence the din. The influence the din will be the way you are now. Yeah? So what does that mean, a din the way you are now? The way you are now, whether it's interesting and worthwhile for the Beroilom to enter the business with you for the future year. That's what is Rosh Hashanah. So this is scary, but it's scary in a very uplifting way, that someone is over here trying to be interested in me, not trying to punish me. Yeah? Okay?
Meaning the din really, based on what you're saying, the din is an expression of that what I'm doing is meaningful. And because it's meaningful, therefore there has to be a din. Without the din, it would be something which it lacks a certain significance. The din itself is an expression of the meaningfulness of what I do.
Right. That's right. So this, you see that in Rabbi Soel himself. When Rabbi Soel speaks about the din, which is relevant to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Rabbi Soel doesn't speak about you are in a bad shape or things like this. He always emphasizes that it means you. This is not a side point. This is the central point of him making Yerushalayim and Yerushalayim, the basis of the Yomim Noraim, by Rabbi Sol, it's always that he wants to emphasize that the Einish is relevant to you. He says that in Michtav Vov Zayin, when he says, Onoichi alozeh, his muchel etzar v'oinig, it means the person himself. And then he says in the Igeres Amusa, he says, Echotu oisi avera v'anenash. It's the same person which will get the punishment. Rabbi Sol doesn't deal with schizophrenic people. Rabbi Sol deals with very normal people, and he tells us it is a big work. It's an unbelievable big work to make you come to the realization that your actions are really making a difference in yourself. So this is the challenge of the person in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, that he is making that available to himself. That he says, Nachon, that's right. My actions define me. So this is a very difficult thing. In a certain way, it's elusive. It's something which is so difficult for us to do, and this simple scare, to be scared about the mice and say, I will die or it will be terrible for me, that doesn't do the job. Yeah? This simply scares a person and scares him away. Okay?
So what you're saying really, I mean, this is I think it's very important, because many people have an understanding in Rabbi Yisrael, which is perhaps a somewhat shallow understanding, that when he says, the same person who will get the oynesh, it's really you. What he means to say is, it will hurt. Don't think that it won't hurt because it's somebody else. It's really you, and just like you feel pain now, you will feel pain then. What you're saying, though, is that Rabbi Yisrael is actually coming to empower the person. It's not, usually we think that this fear is a fear that freezes and causes us to stagnate and to freeze in our step. What you're saying is this actually empowers you, because you realize how significant and meaningful your actions actually are, that they are oimet bedin, meaning that they have real meaning.
Look, Rabbi Yeshua, I will tell you that we tell you this is a general mistake in Rabbi Yisrael. Rabbi Yisrael takes Yerushalayim as something which is mekarev the person to the avodah. It's a question of kiruf. And in one place he says, the people which have Yerushalayim, they will be big undertaker. Then you call that, they will not undertaker, you don't say that.
Right, they will have initiative, they'll innovate,
they will someone which have they are innovators, they are going into the endeavor, they are trying to make a new thing. That's what they do. That's what the Yerushalayim does. And we have this very shallow understanding that Yerushalayim is a stifling, paralyzing koyach. Rabbi Sol would look at you and say, you didn't understand my take on Yerushalayim from the beginning. I don't look at Yerushalayim as something which stifles you, which makes you freeze, which makes you not doing. Yerushalayim is a koyach which makes you doing. And the problem with those girls or those people which today speak about Yerushalayim, this Yerushalayim they present is a koyach which makes the person freeze and makes the person stand still. And then they feel they did something because you don't do Averis, because you're standing still. Rabbi Sol would look at you and says, no, that's not what it means. It means that you are actively involved in Avodas Hashem with Yerushalayim, because you understand the significance of your actions. That's it, yeah.
So, with that in mind, should our focus in Avodah towards Rosh Hashanah, Yom and Noraim in general, should the focus be, many people focus specifically on the actions. We did this wrong and we did this wrong and we need to do tshuva on this and to fix this. But with what you're saying, it seems to be that the main focus, especially what you said from Rabbeinu Chanana or Basher Rushon, the main focus should be about myself, about how I am standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, rather than exactly what I did or I didn't do. Where am I standing now? What is my commitment to the future? How do you balance between the focus on the meisim from one side, and on the other side on the focus on the person himself and his relationship and how he stands before Hashem?
We have a problem today with this word of relationship. Relationship is a word which is very much abused in the English-speaking world. because relationship is something which is very fluffy. I want to ask you, when you are thinking, for example, I want now to put that deliberately on Evet, because people think, no, relationship is not Evet. That means a ben, a son. But I want to be a servant. Servant by us, the people, when you think about the servant, then you see someone which is bending in front of his master. That makes bending. So I ask you, when you have a servant which is bending in front of you the whole day, what do? I think you'll give him a good chop with your foot and say, go to work. Because a servant is not bending. A servant is doing the work which otherwise the boss himself would have to do it. Did you once think about you being a servant of Hashem, that you do the work which otherwise Hashem himself would have to do it? That's an unbelievable, uplifting mindset, that your actions, it's not only your relationship, no, it's your actions are so important that they are doing the job of Hashem in this world. So, Mimele, by us, when we are Chayzer B'tshuva, and we think about ourselves, this is very much connected. The Borei Olam is interested in me, that he wants me to be in this world, because he has a certain plan with me. Now, this plan is not only some amorphous thing. This plan has to be actualized in actions. So for sure I have to think about my actions. For sure I have to think about what I do. But my doing and my actions are very much connected to that awareness that I am a part of some plan in this world. I am a part of his interest in that world. So that my actions become much more important, but I think about my actions. For example, when you think about your plan, for example, let's take a person like a teacher of Torah. A teacher of Torah, he wants to do teaching. So he thinks about his own personality, which has to be fitting that plan. So I worked on my public speaking, and I am excellent at that, and I know the Gemara inside out. I have a depth in Torah. I am the ideal Magichir. No, you are a very bad Magichir, because when you think about that, you are needed for the purpose of the Borei Olam. Not only needed, you should actualize your potential, the way you say. No, you need it for the purpose. Then you have to think first and foremost, what are the students need from me? And then you understand, they don't need my geoinus, and they don't need my public speaking. They need my appreciation of them. They need my listening to them. Suddenly you say, wow, my actions are very important, but not necessarily where I think that I am such a big person. I have a purpose in that world. I have something to do. But then you think, oh, what do I have to do? Wow, I have to do something which I wouldn't dream of it beforehand. I have to think about that. What is my mission over here? So then you begin to think really about what you have to do, and not only what you are. That's very dangerous to only think what you are. You understand what I mean?
I do understand, but let me just try to clarify a little bit more. You're saying that the thinking about standing before a HaKadosh Baruch Hu on Rosh Hashanah actually begins from the Maisim, meaning the way I define who I am before a HaKadosh Baruch Hu is intimately related or even founded on my appreciation of what I've done and how I'm going to improve or fix or rethink what I'm actually doing. Meaning, you can't think about this standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but like in the Rambam Hilchos Tshuva, he speaks on the one hand about the Maisim, but he also speaks about Yira and Ava. You're saying you can't really start from the Yira and the Ava. You start from your Maisim, from what I've done and how I'm going to develop or how I'm going to improve those actual deeds, those actual Maisim.
You look, Rabbi Yehoshua, when you are standing in Rosh Hashanah, you are standing at the day where it reveals Malchus Shomayim. So Malchus always needs that you are doing an action for that Malchus, for that Klal Yisrael, for that neighbor, for your children, for your classmate, for something else. You can't only, Malchus is not something which goes only on your own stomach. That's a very poor Malchus. Malchus means something altogether. So your Maisim on Rosh Hashanah are very important, that I think, what can I do for the business of the Beroilom? It's not only what can I do to actualize my potential. That is a way of thinking, actualizing your potential. That's a thinking process which is very much rooted in individualism. I am individuum and I have my big, unbelievable potential, and I am asked to actualize that. No, you are asked to bring that out for the benefit of the business of the Beroilom which is going on in the world, because you have to do that according to his interest, not to your interest. He's interested in you because of his business, not because of your business. You understand? So my actions become a very important part of the community, of someone else. I have to be involved. I have to think, where am I? And this is the big thing, that I am there where I benefit others. This is me. It's not I am this big guy, but I am giving up from my greatness in order others, Shoitim and Ktanim, also will have something from my unbelievable wisdom. It's not like this. You are the one which others have a benefit from him. That's what you are. That's Rabbi Reuven says that in the Bnei Moren. You are going over to the Bnei Moren. That means everyone alone.
And then Leuchter means that we are being judged as private individuals.
But then the Gemara says, kulom niskorim b'skira achas.
Right.
So what's that? So Rabbi Yehoshua says, you are needed as an individual, how much you are part of everyone. That's your individuality. Your individuality is how much you are part of everyone. It's not,
meaning you're part within the clan, as it were. The fact that
is you. That is you. That is not a part of you. That is what you are created for. That's why the Beroilom goes into business with you.
Because it's a business with Klal Yisrael. It's not a business with me as a private individual. Mm-hmm.
No, your most private point is the one which is connected to the Klal. This is your most private point. These people don't get. Im ein ani limini ukashani la'atzmi ma'oni. I didn't find myself yet. I can't stand for my privacy. I have to work on myself like a madman, but I have to find that I am not standing for myself, because otherwise I didn't find myself. I didn't find myself.
You would say that this would be the idea that Chazal mentioned, as it were, a scholar to be a ish she'atzibur she'arabim tzrichin lo. You would say that this is the pshat, that you are not standing on your own, but you are standing as a public person, even in your most private maisim.
Yes, I want to share with you one thing which Mashgiach told me. When I was learning by the Mashgiach, I went into the Mashgiach, and people don't get that right. They think, Mapitom, you have to be educated. I can't say educated, but my parents but people tried to educate me. So I had certain things with me, and one of them was that when I learned with the Mashgiach, I always told him in the end of the learning, thank you. Thank you. And Mashgiach learned with me things which he didn't learn with anyone in the world. Even with his son-in-law, he didn't learn that. So I was unbelievable thankful. I told thank you. After a year or two of saying every time thank you, the Mashgiach told me cease to do that. I looked at him like that was a culture shock. Why not saying thank you? That's the most basic thing I was taught in my education. So the Mashgiach told me, when you say thank you, that means that what we learn over here together, that is something which stays within you, and you got it, and there it is in your pneumius, and that's the end station. Thank you. No. What I teach you, everything I teach you, sooner or later, it has to be there for others. And he told me, I learned with Rav Hutner 11 years, and at one time told him, thank you for the learning. Now you have to understand, be now careful. The Mashgiach was very much against, I could even say hated, people which simply spoke out what they learned. He hated that. Simply to go over and say, I will quote you Maral, and I quote you Nefesh, and I quote, I think, be name dropping, you know how that goes, you know, to say Mechaber. And the Mashgiach learned with me Mechaber, which I can't even mention the name of the books of the Seforim which he opened, you know, I feel reluctant to say that. But everything he learned with me is there for the Rabbim. But you have to know how to give that to the Rabbim. You are not simply a copy machine. No, you have to digest that, you have to build your pneumias, you have to build yourself up, but the end thought is always for others, never stays by you, nothing. Yeah? But it's not that you are making a sale, end of year sale by you the whole time, that you make a sale. No, that was very against the Mashgiach. But in the end, everything is for others, nothing for you. You see? Mm. So that is like a very deep thing. It's very private. It's a thing which is very much, I learned it, and I would never tell anyone what I learned there. But I'll tell everyone what I learned. I have to digest that, I have to modify that. In the end, that will be the thing which I give for the Rabbi. Yeah? Because nothing stays with a person. Yeah? And everything stays with a person. This is the whole thing. It's my personal thing, but it's for the Rabbi. It's my personal thing. I will never tell you that, but it's for the Rabbi. So this is that is the creation of the human being, which is there as an individual, but for the klal. But he's there as an individual. Don't forget that. But it's in most individual point is for the others. You see?
Mm-hmm. I do see, and this gives a certain, many people, I had somebody spoke to me today, Mamash, a couple of hours ago, somebody from the United States, and he told me that Rosh Hashanah for him is a difficult time because every year he goes back and he thinks about his flaws and his faults and his averos and his mitzvahs and, everything he does, and it seems, it seems very similar to the last year. Nothing seems to move. Nothing seems to change. So perhaps based on what you're saying, perhaps the focus maybe is the focus of a person's change is also in the kind of level of his appreciation of what you say, of being a part of. It's not just about whether you daven with more kavanah or less kavanah. That's very important, of course. But it's also how your dedication to the Rabbim, how you see yourself as an Oved Hashem in the sense of giving to Klal Yisrael and giving to Malchus Shamayim, that in this you can make a progression from year to year in a very different sense to what people are used to thinking.
I will tell you a Maisa also with the Mashgichim which I had, and I hope that people will understand that right. I'm always reluctant to say this Maisa over because people will mistakenly say, you see, he saw the light only by the older age, and when he was younger, he was mistaken. And that's wrong. It's exactly what you say. Look, it goes like this.
Okay, I don't want to put you off, but some people might listen to this Maisa, so...
Yeah, for sure, you can listen to it. Yeah, okay. You can listen to that. It's one of the most important Maisim, because the people don't get that. But I want to make this Hagdoma that people should understand.
Okay.
Be very aware how a person develops. And even Anoshim Gdoilim are developing. The Mashgiach was unbelievable, passionate about dissipating Emunah. And at the age of 65, when I began to know him, he was very much in seeing the Borei Olam in the nature, in his creation. and he saw that in the harmony of the creation goes one with the other. Everyone has his own world in this world, and his own world in this world is living in harmony with the other one. Is that Balechayim? Is that human beings? Is that you have all different kind of surroundings of Balechayim which are really living in harmony one with the other. Those are unbelievable tziyurim on Emunah, which you can't believe till today. For example, I very much hold that this is a very big revelation of Hashkoche and of Maisa B'Roilom, that you see this harmony in the Bria. So the Mashgiach told me I should read a book which describes that from a natural, from a biological or natural perspective. Read that book on the Sherutim, but read that book. It gives you a lot of tziyurim in Emunah. I read that, and it was unbelievable. It was a very, very, interesting, a very unbelievable book. Yeah. 20 years later, I am going into the Mashgiach, and this book is on his table. And I see that book, I don't say anything. The Mashgiach enters the room, already old, 85 or more, 87, and he enters the room slowly, and he sees that book, and he asks me, Reuven, do you know that book? And I told him, yes. I didn't tell him, he told me to read that. I said, yes, I know it. I says, such a nonsense, You speak about the world without the B'Roilom. It's such a nonsense book. There's nothing to it. That's what he said. So I saw with my eyes that the person became older, and in the older age, he thinks only about the B'Roilom because he wants to go back to the B'Roilom. So he thinks only about him. So the world becomes a place where you don't dig there, you don't go and try to find tziyurim in that world. You think about the B'Roilom, and you think about Hashkocha, you think about the purpose of the world. That's what you think. That's what you do by the age 85. But by the age 65, that is a very important endeavor, that you should be involved in the world, seeing Hashkocha in the world. So both are right. But it changed. You see?
Right. As it were, your sense of responsibility in the world is different when you are a younger person and when you're an older person. Your sense of purpose is changing. Yeah.
So there you saw it by a big person. You saw he changed. His focus changed in Avodah. His focus changed in involvement with the world. That was unbelievable.
Amazing. Really amazing.
Yeah. But you know yourself that we today are so, the way you say, we today are so focused only right or wrong. No personal involvement. So even that, people take this mice and say, the real right was only Nizgale by the age of 85. No, it's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of your personal involvement with the business of the B'Roilom. When you are age 65, that's a different involvement than when you are 85. You see?
Right. So it's like, perhaps it's a perspective on, like the Gemara has in the Knusi de Rav and Yan Pusi de Rav, meaning it's Elu ve'Elu. It's a different perspective on Avodah completely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I think that's very important for the Rosh Hashanah. Yeah.
Right. All right. Just maybe one final question, and this returns us a bit, brings us back to the beginning. You said at the beginning that Rosh Hashanah is about the Kodesh Baruch Hu is expressing his interest in us. He wants us to be a part of the Malchus Shemayim. He wants us to be a part of his business, as in your words, that he sets up a business, and we're the laborers, or we're the workers in his business, as it were. A lot of people who I've met that have a difficulty with Yiddishkeit, with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, with Yom Noraim, is I think because they lack this awareness, they lack this appreciation of how Kodesh Baruch Hu really is how they are a part of a Kodesh Baruch Hu's business, how they're important for Kodesh Baruch Hu, how Kodesh Baruch Hu wants their avodah, how it's significant. How would you suggest, or how
how do you think that it's possible to give over, to instill this awareness? How do we see it in our everyday lives?
I understand you. Look, Rabbi Yehoshua, it is like this. This is a question of education. And the education goes like that. We have to rethink how we teach our children and our students the presence of the Beroilo. And we have to, I think we have to do that. And I give you now a very secular way of looking at it. It's very important that I tell you the secular way, because then you may see that makes sense. That really makes sense. And then only there is a deepening of that secular, a little bit, a different approach. But let's say a person looks at his own life. And he looks at his own life, there were hurdles there were difficulties, but these difficulties, I overcame them all, and I reached my goal, and they were not any obstacle. I was stronger than everything which happened to me in my life. This is in a certain way a very silly life. It's a life which is focused only on your own muscles, whether your muscles are stronger than what happens to you. But I think an intelligent way, including overcoming the difficulty, is my life educated me. I learned something from my life. That's right? That would be a very intelligent thing. What did you learn from that yourself or a family member was sick and in a very interesting way became healthy again? What did you learn from that? Not including anything else, that your life teaches you something. It taught you savlonis. It taught you appreciation of small things. It taught you all different kind of things when you are going through anything in your life. Even good things teach you something. What are you taught by that you get a raise in your salary or you win the lottery or things? What are you taught from that? What does it speak to you? I think that's very intelligent. That you could say to any secular person in the world. Now we say it's not only a mental construct that you say my life is educating me. We believe that there is an educator there which wants to actively educate me through my life. That is the Beroilum. That is called Hashgacha Pratis. The Beroilum wants to educate me. That, with other words, is interested in me. When we would teach ourselves and our children that what happens to me, that there is something there which happens to me in order to teach me something, that is a very important thing. I remember from my own family that I have 10 children, Baruch Hashem, and once in a while, there happen things more dense. The one got a leg, a little bit something, and the other one had a cuff, and the third one had a finger which got hurt, and something happened all dense, and I overhear my children before they were small children, before they go to sleep, one said, perhaps we should check the mezuzahs. And then another one says, Abba will let us check the mezuzahs the whole year round. Besides today, Abba will tell us, think what is the message. Think what you can do with yourself. They were little children. Yeah? But no, don't run for a schooler. Don't run for that. Think what is the interaction from the Hashem with you through all these ma'asim. So that you can do with small children. And then the interest of the Beroilum is something very real into your life, but has to be educated. That's what I would think.
So you would say that this needs to be taught not on a philosophical level, but on a very experienced level. This is something which right.
You feel it simply, you experience, you see it, and not you understand it. You see it, and then it's for real, and then you can live with that. That's what I think. Yeah.
And a part of the tshuva, or a part of the preparation, perhaps, for the Yom Noraim would be also to think about the year and what has the experience of the year really brought you, what's it taught you, which level has it, the sea is never so smooth, it's rough, and it takes you to different places. So where has the year brought you, as it were?
So now you understand the Rabbeinu Hananel, which he says it's not about the past, but it's for sure about the past. But it's about the past where it brought you. And then you are in the din. For sure it's about the past. Don't be silly. But it's not about the actions of the past, which now you unroll that and look at them. It's about the actions from the past, how they influenced you the way you stand now. That's the din. You see? That's the Rabbeinu Hananel.
Gewaldig.
Okay.
Oh, this has been amazing, inspiring, I think, for me, and I very much hope also for others. And Amir Hashem, we're really waiting for the next time. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you much for this time, and I appreciated your time that you took yourself to speak with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So our next guest online now is Rabbi Yitzchok Feldheim. As I mentioned before, Rabbi Feldheim is a renowned speaker and an expert on Machshava, and we're honored to have him on the line. Thank you very much, Rabbi Feldheim, for being with us. And maybe the first question we can speak about is the emphasis that we have on Rosh Hashanah specifically, and Yomim generally, is on din. Rosh Hashanah is Yom HaDin, it's Yemei HaDin, and yet when we daven the tefillos, both of Rosh Hashanah specifically, but even of Yom Kippur, then the element of din seems to be very minimal. We have a reference in the Chronos of the idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Leuchter everything, and when he remembers everything, then there's also decisions of how things will be for the next year. But the main theme, both of the general Birchas Hayoim and also the Musaf Shmoneh Esrei and so on, is Malchus, Malchus and Malchus, which is more about our role, our responsibility, or how HaKadosh Baruch Hu relates to the world. How do we resolve these very seemingly different themes of on the one hand, the din, which we're so busy with, and on the other hand, the basic tefillos, which speak about Malchus and not about the din?
Oh, okay, gewaldig. Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Pfeffer. Thank you for having me on also. I just want to start...
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much for being with us.
It's a good... You summed up the whole Rosh Hashanah very clearly over there. It's...
I think I've left something for you to say, though, so we'll be happy to hear.
Din and Malchus. All right, so you know, I like to use a muscle for how I like to give over a very simple muscle that really is a powerful tool for seeing the world, and I think that muscle will sort of bridge the gap between Din and Malchus. It's consider a puzzle. A puzzle, a bunch of cardboard pieces. There's 3 stages in a puzzle. The stage 1 is a picture, a beautiful picture, whatever it is. You have an accent, maybe it's English, is a Big Ben. You have a puzzle of, are you South Africa? Where are you from?
Originally from London, England.
Okay, good. So a puzzle.
I've heard of the Big Ben. The Big Ben is fine.
Okay, you buy a puzzle with 500 pieces. There's a beautiful picture. That's stage 1. Then stage 2 is you take the picture and we put it through a machine and they cut it up into 500 pieces. And then we buy the box with all the pieces. And stage 3 is we reassemble all the pieces. The order of a puzzle is that the cover of the box, the broken pieces, and the whole picture. It's an achdus, and then a pirud, and then an achdus again. I like to use that for visualizing the entire story of history. When we refer to the Borei Olam as an echad, we mean more than saying that there's only one God. There's only one God means there's one God, not two. When we say Hashem Echad, we're saying more than there's one of Him only. We're saying that He is Echad. There's something called Achdusai. Not that there's not more than one, but He is oneness itself. Hashem is the Echad. And so a good way to conceive of it, Kaviyachol, is that He's the cover of the puzzle. He's everything in a oneness. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Echad, then the Bria is the Hester, is the Olam, is the where Hashem is Nelam, the hiddenness of Hashem. The hiddenness of Echad. If someone's intelligent and you want to hide intelligence, you act foolish. If you're strong and you hide strength, you act weak. If you're Echad, the hiddenness of Echad is diversity and multiplicity. So there's a much I always use. That Hashem is the Echad and the Bria is the hiddenness of Echad. It's fragmentation. So Hashem is the cover of the box, and the Bria are the pieces of the puzzle. And therefore, it's our job, stage 3, is to assemble all the pieces and put all the pieces back together again. And that's where you are experiencing the Achdus of the Borei Olam, but now through our creation. That's called being Mamlich Hashem, that we are making him the Melech. Then HaKadosh Baruch, that's the Yomahu Yeh Hashem Echad Shmo Echad. The whole Tachlis of the Bria is to achieve the Echad, but not the original Echad as the cover of the box, the Echad as the culmination of all of history and all of everything. Now that creates a whole life, and that's what Kol HaTorah Kula is. Kol HaTorah Kula is the guidelines to reassembling the pieces. We say before, different mitzvahs, l'shem yichud kudshu, every mitzvah is the attempt to combine unique pieces of cardboard. And when we put all the pieces together, we create a Kodesh Baruch. We can now re-experience. Hashem was always Echad, but his Achdus was hidden. See, the cover of the box, nobody hangs up the cover of the box on the wall. Because Milton Bradley made the cover of the box. We hang up a finished puzzle because that's our accomplishment. And that's what Malchus is. When they talk about Kabbalah, in Kabbalah they talk about Malchus, they talk about it's les megar me klum, it's nukva. What does it all mean? It means that it's there's nothing new there. Malchus is just where everything that exists previously comes together. It all, Shabbos is the Malchus of the week. We don't create anything. We don't make anything. The week, Sunday was this, Monday was this. Shabbos is where everything comes together. Olam Haba is the ultimate Malchus, where all of our lives and everything we've done, all of Zecher, Kol HaMayt, everything comes together. That's the final achievement of all the process. And that's called Malchus. And that's what, and when you understand that, then Din is what it's all. What is din? Din is the idea that justice. Din is that it's real. What I get, I eat my ma'aseh yodov. Like the way the Nefesh Chaim explains Olam Haba, that every mitzvah, it's a great mashal. Every mitzvah is a brick, and you build your world. Din is the idea that it's not a magical system. It's an actual thing. Hashem was Megala himself in a beautiful world. All these pieces. And it looks broken and it is painful because we don't see the Achdus. And to the degree that we fix things and we put things together, that's the degree of our schar. We are literally being oichel masa yadenu. Whatever you accomplish, if you fix things and you reassemble things and you put things together, then you will experience that shleimus. The Malchus is a result of what you succeeded at putting together. If you leave your cardboard pieces on the table, then the puzzle will remain unfixed, and you'll just have a mess. And it's a mess, and a mess is uncomfortable at best. If you put the pieces together, you'll experience the beauty of it. So if you take two little pieces and you put it together, maybe you made a little bird on top of Big Ben. It's a beautiful little bird, but it's part of the picture. And then you do more. The more you put together, the more beautiful it becomes. And if you do it on all the levels, intellectually, emotionally, physically, then your whole life will be shalom in all the different dimensions. Mm-hmm. You have mishpacha.
Let me try to... No, it's good. Let me try to say this a little bit in my words and tell me if this is more or less what you mean to say. The din on the one hand is really a force, a koyach of separation, right? Meaning din means everything is in its own boundary, as it were, right? It's a judgment. Judgment means you get exactly what you deserve. It's like an element of separation. And the Malchus is when all of those elements of separation are brought together and you build up the Malchus through those kind of separate entities, meaning you're Mechaber, you join it all together to create this Malchus Shemaim, to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. Like you said, there's a Helem, and then you build everything together, and that reveals HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. That's how the Din and the Malchus come together.
Okay, so partially, what you're saying is 100% true. I'm adding a little explanation in. Not that the din so much is the differentiation or the separation, which is true for din. I'm focusing more on the practicality of din. That din means it's not magic. That it's not I do mitzvahs and I cash it in for prizes. You know,
it's like not automation. It's not an automation.
Din is it's justice, meaning that in a world of din, meaning if Hashem reveals himself Hashem creates this world, and this world is Hashem hidden, and we can put it together, that means that this world inherently works. See, in din, I say, how do I make a parnasa according to din? You know how you make a parnasa according to din? You go to work and you create it. And if you don't go to work and you stay in bed, then al pi din, you will not parnasa. How do you have nachas al pi din? Well, if you learn with your children at night and you're patient with them and you show them love and you encourage them and you say Kriya Shema, you tell them stories and you go on trips and you discipline them.
Din means you get what you work for, you get what you labor for, and that's where you get an al-pi din, not al-pi chesed or rachamim, you get it al-pi something that you deserve to get.
Exactly, and that's
something that you earn, that you labor for. And
that's what a puzzle is. A puzzle is that it's Maaseh Yodai, that din and Malchus are hainu hach, because I have the chance to be the creator of my shleimus. And that's what we mean when we talk about you're being mamlech Hashem, that we're creating, that this is a version of Elikos that we have a role in. Hashem gave us an unbelievable thing. He gave us the opportunity to experience Elikos through our own efforts, that we can sit at the end and you know, I have a good mashal I use, a very American mashal. But like, imagine a boy who works a whole summer mowing lawns and doing hard work, and he buys his first car, you know, and he's a jalopy, a bashed up car, it's all he could afford, and he has no money even left for gas. But he buys this car, and his friend ganvas a beautiful Cadillac. So the friend with the Cadillac can drive around, he gets all the covet in the world, and everyone like says, wow. But when everyone's gone and he's in his driveway at night, he can't sit in his car and enjoy it. He knows it's not his. The guy who earned his car and paid for it with hard work, that boy, even though he can't afford gas, so he can't go anywhere, he sits in his driveway in his car that he paid for, and he feels like a melech, because it's Maaseh Yodov. He made it. That's the experience.
So Rashi says on the Reitze Adam B'Kaf Shaloi, Rashi says, because you made it yourself. Telling me that the Malchus, the Kodesh Baruch Hu wants Malchus Shemaim, that means he wants us to do it the din. He means that this is a serious business, meaning it's not something which is going to come by itself. It's only going to come through our input, through our commitment, through our dedication, and insofar as we do it, then it's going to come the din. The din is a result, meaning Malchus Shemaim is the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings din into the world, as it were.
Right.
And he's creating the puzzle. He's creating the puzzle, and for us to build.
Right. I can get, if my son loves England, I can buy him a picture of Big Ben or a puzzle.
Right, or a puzzle. Right. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's choice to do it as a puzzle is Malchus Shemaim.
But it's risky. You see, if I give him the picture of Big Ben, he'll hang on his wall and he'll be the happiest kid, the second happiest kid. If I give him a puzzle, it's risky. It may never get done and he'll have nothing. But we have the chance of him having Big Ben with his. I don't think the English deserve that Big Ben should be our muscle for our son. Maybe we should change the muscle. It comes in,
Well, because you went to the American direction, so Big Ben is like the consolation for the Brits.
I hear. Okay, all right. It's a little hakaras hatoi for our past. I think when we yaitz hakaras hatoi for the past, we can go from England. Okay, let's go right from there. And then how would you say that the idea of the shofar, again, we spoke about the din, which is how Chazal really, Chazal gave Rosh Hashanah the name of Yom HaDin, and we find a lot of emphasis on it in obviously in our Avodah Soyim is based a lot on Yom HaDin. The tefillos are based a lot on the Malchus, but the mitzvah d'oraisa, the basic mitzvah of the day is the shofar. How does the shofar come in together with the idea of Malchus, which itself is the idea of being Zoicha B'Din? How does the shofar tie in with that? Wow. Okay, so this is mamish beautiful. There's two things I want to say, and I tend to get sidetracked. So remind me to go to the second thing. But the first,
I'll do my best.
Okay. There's two things about shofar, but they're not related, so I'm not going to think of it. And I'm at the age where I don't remember things. But the story is like this: is that this is mamish what shofar is. What minat Torah? What is the chiyuv of shofar? It's to hear three teruos, each one with a tekiah beforehand and afterwards. So the pattern of shofar is tekiah, teruah, tekiah. straight sound, broken sound, straight sound. The avoida of shofar, the kavana of shofar is the following. Tekiah. Oh, let me first emakdim it like this. Like we hear two different stories of shofar, or maybe even three. Is shofar bechia? Is it crying? Is it aim sisra? Is it all? A lot of the chazal talk about shofar as bechia. But on the other hand, we hear about shofar.
Kanuchi, it's two versions, either Kanuchi or Yululi, which are the Seforim and the Trua.
Right. Beautiful. And then there's the whole other side that shofar is not bechia at all. It's coronating a king. It's a trumpet. It's bugles coronating a king. And then there's a third version of shofar. It's not crying or coronation. It's a wake-up call. It's reveille. Get up, wake up, trumpet. So there's three versions of shofar. There's crying, Malchus, and is shofar like is it wailing in grief or hailing the chief? That's how I say it. It's the Shemaka sound. Are we crying? So the answer is like this. The answer is this is the process. It's exactly what we described in Malchus. There's straight, broken, straight. The first tekiah is HaKadosh Baruch Hu before Bria, the original echad, the cover of the puzzle box. The trua is the hiddenness, is the period, is all the broken pieces, all the tsar, all the disunity in the world, physical tsar, poverty, sickness, emotional tsar, loneliness, shidduch crises, people who are forgotten, people who are in fight, people who are jealous, people who are depressed, and then there's intellectual tsar, there's lack of havana, there's lack of justice, there's things that don't make sense, things are in fear, there's corruption, and all the tsar in the world is nichel in the trua. Hashem is the cover of the box, the first tekiah, the true is broken sound, and the final goal is to get to the last tekiah. The last tekiah is we're mamlech Hashem. It's the soif ma'asav Machshava tchila. It's the Hashem molach, and now Hashem yimlech li'olam vod. That's our goal, is to be mamlech him like he was before the trua. So what's the answer to the different sounds of the shofar? The first sound of the shofar was the tekiah is the sound of Malchus. Shlemos, Achdos. The trua is the sound of bechia. So when you blow the trua, that's the bechia. When you blow the tekiah, now you're mamlech Hashem, which is the repairing of the brokenness, removing the trua. And that's what the wake-up call is. The wake-up call is the linking of the two. It's that the trua, the being oimid on the tsar. When I sit by the tekiah, I think of all the tzaras in my life and in the world and all the tzaras I could observe when they're blowing the trua. And then when he switches to tekiah, I try and think about the being misakin and what I need to do and what I want Hashem, how I want to be misakin. So when you're oimid on the trua, that becomes the wake-up call. It's the tsar that wakes you up to be mamlech Hashem, to fix the problem, to do the puzzle. When you look at the mess of all the pieces, then it inspires you to put it back together again. The bechinas, hamkol misabel al Yerushalayim zeiche beroye b'simchasa. That it's the stelling on the avelos. So that's shofar. Shofar is mamish this three-step thing. And by the way, that's why also there's three different sounds of truas. Because we're dividing the brokenness of the world into three categories. There's Seforim Trua and Seforim Trua. And it's because the hiddenness of Hashem in the world is not one thing called hiddenness. Hashem hid himself, Toyu, Voyu, V'choshech. There's Toyu hiddenness, there's Voyu hiddenness, and there's Choshech. So, I'm it's the same thing as Avram and Yaakov. It's emotional, physical, and intellectual tsar. And so you can mamish think by each koil. By Seforim, you think of all the emotional tsar in the world, and by Trua, all the physical tsar in the world, and by Seforim Trua, all of the intellectual tsar.
This would be this chiluk is more of the chadrush, because in the Gemara it's a suffix. Which one is the right? Which one is the right? I didn't think there's an opinion that says that all of them are the MS, but certainly I'll pick about this could be. No, because this is something that.
But they're all sfekas. There's room for all of them. Meaning there's so many versions of bechia. Which is the one? The suffix is like which is the ikar bechia? Which is like I was thinking about which tsar is the worst.
Meaning they're all real. Right. I see what you mean. You mean to say these are all different types of bechiyas. Meaning there's room for all of them. Aliba the emes. It's not that the suffix. Right. What does the Torah want? All of them are a part of the concept of a Torah.
Beautiful, right? Which one's nichel and which, and how it's kolel, that's a shaila. But they all exist. Tsar could be divided like Toyu Voyu V'Choshech. Listen, normally we don't divide them. We just say something called Hester Panos, and we use one general rule, Hester, and that would be called Teruah. But Hester divides into, is it Toyu, is it Voyu, or is it Choshech? Right, originally it was all Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was the only Golus. Then Mitzrayim gets divided into Bavel, Paras, Yava, and Edom. That's the division of the original Teruah into Shvarim, Teruah, and Teruah. You can always divide things into more and more elaborate systems. But the cloud, the Torah wants a Teruah. The Teruah is Bechiyah.
Right. And the reason based on this, why Rosh Hashanah is the Iker named after the Teruah, meaning it's a Yom Teruah rather than a Yom Tkiyah. The reason why it's the Teruah is because that's a representation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's creation, or it's a representation of the Iker of.
That's our job in the world. It's the Rosh Hashanah is the anniversary of the creation of the world. What Hashem created on Rosh Hashanah was the world.
We received our job, as it were, our role in.
Olam Haba, right? Olam Haba will be called the Yom Tekiah. You know, it's Yitaka Vayomahu Yitaka B'Shofar Gadol. That will be the Tekiah. This world is the Teruah. Our goal is Yitaka B'Shofar Gadol, to reach the final. That's the Tekiah Gedolah. It's such a powerful thing to be Oymed on. They blow Tekiah Gedolah. It's a real tool to think about. Is that imagine the world? That's the Vayomahu Yashem Echad, where all the brokenness becomes whole.
Meaning that's setting the context. It's, as it were, we're setting the framework for the Teruah to be understood in its proper context, in the proper framework.
Right. Which is Kol HaTorah Kula. Kol HaTorah Kula is the attempt to address the different components of the Teruah. Right? That's what even Rabbi Kiva says. It's a good mushal that everything is about being ma'achid things. Or the idea that Hemida Malachas, that it's all Emunah. The goal is Hemida Malachas, is that everything should become one, to create that synthesis of all of the Pratim. And that's the symphony of the Bria. You know, I call that's Kedusha. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Every element of the Bria, all the Tzvakos Moran, all the parts of the world, each thing proclaiming the Rabbeinu Shalom in its unique voice. The sound of all those things zusammen, that's the Tekiah Gedolah, and that's our goal, and that's called being Mamlech Hashem. Malchus of Hashem is Vayomahu Hashem Echad Shmayachad.
All right, so let me take this to the next point.
Oh, you forgot to remind me. You forgot to remind me for the other word on Sefer.
I see you've reminded yourself though, so go ahead, Adrabah.
I did. It's just I haven't said it over yet, and it's a beautiful thing. And it's a risk.
Okay,
I want to have an opportunity to say it over. I was thinking.
Okay.
We talk about the Shofar like as the Eloi Shel Yitzchok. You know, what is the it seems so much like that ayah was like an afterthought. Like the whole arcade was the story, and the ayah was like a what do you call it? A prize when someone loses. There's a word for that. The runner-up, you know, but then on Rosh Hashanah, the ayah is
consolation. They call it a consolation prize. Right.
Yeah, but this consolation prize made it pretty big. You know, we're sitting here, and the whole world is about the ayah Shel Yitzchok. So what is it? So I was thinking that you see, Avram, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this beautiful gan for Adam, and he says, look, like, go put all the pieces together, make this world work, be mamlech me in the world. And that's Avram. Avram is mispashet. He's involved in everything. He's the Baal Chesed, and he's an Eshel. And then, he hears the Achdus of the Boyrei. That's Avram. And then Avram has this thought. He hears that he's supposed to take Yitzchok to an Akeda, which is the opposite of everything he wanted. Are you being Ma'ached the whole Bria, or are you the opposite of din is like this self-negation, approaching Hashem by erasing myself. The idea of din that we said is approaching Hashem by connecting all the pratim, not erasing things. So that's what he hears. That Hashem tells him, all these things, that's what I want. This is the opposite of Avodas Hashem. But you know what? That hergish that you had, that you have to give up something, there is mokum. It's a holy hergish. Just let me tell you what it is. That's the ayel achar nechaz basvach dekarnov. There is room for hispatlus. The room for hispatlus is that there's an ayel achar. You're not nispatel yourself. You're a piece of the puzzle. The puzzle's not complete without you. But the keren is tarnoi torum b'kovod. The keren is always a symbol of kovod. There's a gaiva in keren, that you're bigger than you are. And that gaiva is nechaz basfach de karnot. We get caught in the bushes by our horns. If you want to put something on the mizbeach and you want to negate something, you know what you have to negate? You negate the karnoi torum b'kovod. You see, let me put it in context. There's two. If I look at the world as a gan, and the worst thing is chet. If the world is a gan, and Hashem is a native, and He wants us to live in the gan, so there's two types of, there's one aveira, but there's two approaches. The aveira is not going in the gan, hiding in the bushes. There are two reasons that people hide in the bushes. Adam and Chava hide in the bushes, they chabe, because they feel orum. You can be ashamed and feel busha and go hide in the bushes, that you're too small, or you can be stuck in the bushes because you're too big. And your gaiva and gets you caught in the bushes. Because the keren is extra, it's external. So the two paths of tshuva back into the gan, one back into the gan is kosnois or vayal bishem, is to cover up your busha, you're not low. And the other one is being moiked, karnoish, the ayel shal Yitzchok, the gaiva of the keren is the nechaz basvach. Basically, there's two reasons you can be caught in the bushes. People hide in the bushes because they're too small, or they get stuck in the bushes because they're too big. You have to feel. The void of Rosh Hashanah is to feel big, and to feel and to if you're too small, and to feel a little smaller if you're too big. That's the ayel. That's what you put on the mizbeach. All right, I said it. Okay, shkoyach for humoring me.
No, it was interesting, but. I'm still going to go back to your first understanding, which was, I think, more directly related to the opening that you spoke about, the Malchus in general, and how the Shofar is really a part of that process of having things that are coming apart and in pieces, and our avodah to then put them together. And just to bring this to perhaps more, it's all every idea is practical in a certain sense, but just in terms of our avodah on Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah, you know, the first day, the second day of Rosh Hashanah are days of tshuva. These are part of the Asosimi tshuva. On the other hand, the very different days of tshuva. Every other day of tshuva we say vidui, and we do tshuva on specific averos. On Rosh Hashanah, we didn't mention averos. We certainly didn't do vidui. So would you say then that the idea of tshuva on Rosh Hashanah is exactly what you said when you mentioned about the shofar, that you, as it were, you declare that you are committing yourself to this overarching, this general purpose, commitment to the scheme of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, of Malchus Shemaim? Is that the actual definition of the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, that you establish yourself, you mamid yourself, kalape, toward the Kodesh Baruch Hu with this purpose, with this role? That's the tshuva?
Well, listen, they say a good question doesn't need an answer. You said the whole thing. I don't need to be myself. You're saying it perfect. That right. There's no bechia on Rosh Hashanah, because if your job is to live in the Gan, so then what is bechia going to do you? You know, you have to say hineni. Here I am. Like din. It's a good mashal. You know, Yom Kippur is all about rachamim. Rachamim is the opposite of din, and rachamim is all about vidoy. Here's a good way to say it. You know, if you want money for a business, you want me to invest in you, or you're coming to the Boirei Olam and you're saying, Rabbeinu Shalom, invest one more year in me. Give me another year. So there's two places that you go to get your funding. You can go to an investor, to a bank, or you can go to a gemach. But there's two whole different pitches. If you're going to a bank and you're going to an investor, how do you ask for your money? You don't tell him vidui. You don't talk about all your bankruptcies and all your failures. You talk about your koiches and how driven you are and how clever you are and what your skills are, what you can bring to the effort, and you make your greatest pitch. Rosh Hashanah, there's no room for bechia, and there's no room for vidui. You're coming and you're saying you're making kabbalos. You're saying, this is what I'm going to do. You're making a pitch. It's about din. What can you do? Do the numbers add up? Are you a good investment? And then if the bank refuses you, and you don't get the chasima on your star from their bayrelim, you don't get it. So then you can go to the gemach, and the gemach is a whole new approach. You don't tell the gemach about how much money you've made and what you tell the gemach about how many kids you have and your choivos, and you cry to the gemach and you do vidui and you come to them hat in hand and broken. It's two entirely different postures. The posture of din is ability. It's yomtov. Rosh Hashanah is a yomtov. You come with confidence, and you come with serious, ready to work. Hineni. And Yom Kippur, you come, you say, it's interesting. To me, that's the whole pshat in Kol Nidre. Kol Nidre is we already were matir neder of Rosh Hashanah. What are we doing Kol Nidre? There's only a few nedarim that you made since Rosh Hashanah. You know which nedarim you made? All your kabbalos. You made all your kabbalos. Because what happens is on Rosh Hashanah, you're coming to Hashem, mikoyach your ability. I'm a good investment. And you're making all your promises to Hashem of why it's good to invest in me, al pidim, logically, why the numbers add up. And that's why you make commitments and promises and kabbalos. But on Yom Kippur, you want to come the opposite. You want to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all those things I promised you, all those skills I said I had, forget them. I'm a nothing. They're garnished. I'm erasing everything I promised. And that's not me. I'm a nobody. Just give me money because I have kids. I want to buy them presents and I want them to fit in. You're mamish undoing Rosh Hashanah. You're saying Kol Nidre on all your kabbalos.
Very interesting idea. I think that there's something of a chiddush in what you're saying about use the word posture, about the kind of inner motion, spiritual motion of a person during the day of Rosh Hashanah, because you see many people on Rosh Hashanah that they're scared stiff, they're trembling, and they're sometimes trembling into a certain inaction, they're paralyzed by the Eimas Hadin. The way you're presenting it is that, Rosh Hashanah is a day when we should be very confident, that this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm planning to do, perhaps last year, I did X, Y, Z. This year I'm going to do even more. I'm going to, I'm committing myself to the Avodas Malchus and to serving Klal Yisrael and to bringing all of this together. It's a very different kind of posture, approach than I think most people have on Rosh Hashanah. You understand what I mean?
Okay, so you're saying it's perfect what you're saying, and it's. But let me show you something which is it's very sobering. It's that like you're hearing din in the perfect way. That din, what din is? Din is so beautiful. When I picture that boy in his driveway without gas in his car, but sitting there so proud of his car, you see the beauty of what din is, to earn my things, that I pay, that it's mine. Din is beautiful, and it's inspiring, and it's justice, and it's fairness. But there's
it's also tough.
But more than tough, it's terrifying. The Ema of din is terrifying, because what's the flip side? You mean if I don't wake up, and it's not magic? I can't just say, Hashem, help me. Hashem gave me the tools to do it myself. So if I get depressed and I take off for a month, if I don't do this, the train's going to leave without me. What do you mean if I don't do it? Din, as beautiful as din is, the ema, it's called ema din. There's no ema like din. It is the scariest thing in the world. Rachamim is safe. The idea that Rachamim means that even though I didn't earn it, you're going to give it to me anyway. Din is so fascinating in that it's a contrast of such unbelievable beauty, but such unbelievable fear. You know what I said last? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't want to interrupt you. I'm just thinking about, would you perhaps define this as the kind of I think a person has this very dual feeling towards responsibility. When you suddenly have like a very deep and a very a severe responsibility thrown your way, sometimes it just falls upon you, and you realize, wow, this is mamash. This really depends on me. If I don't do this, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You know, I'll tell you. This is what I said last week. That we're talking about vidui meiser. What?
Right.
You're saying bi'arti hakodesh min habayis. I got rid of all the stuff. I gave all the stuff. I did everything right, Hashem. Why is that called vidui? Where's the hoidah? Vidui is confession. You just, if anything, it's the opposite. It's like a boast. You're talking about your tzidkis and your righteousness. So I think the secret is, you know what it is? It's that's the real vidui. It's not easy to admit my chesroinus. Admitting chesroinus is hard. It's embarrassing. But there's a certain safety in admitting chesroinus. It's like I say, little kids are scared of the dark. Adults are far more scared of the light. We love the dark. The dark is safe. We have a patur and a teretz. When I talk about my chesroinus and my weaknesses, it sort of liberates me from responsibility. It's much harder for me to come and say to Hashem,
this is what we call this. We call this today the victim mentality, or the very convenient place of being a victim. If you're a victim, then everybody loves you and nobody expects anything from you because you're a victim.
Beautiful.
But if you're in a place of power, then you're in a place of expectation, and then Right.
So can you imagine saying to Hashem, this is the greatest video of all videos. Hashem, I did everything. I'm lucky. I gave it to the Levi, to the Kohen. I did. I'm standing before you. You're creating such a chiyuv on yourself. You're creating expectations. You're jumping. That's the true confession. That's true hoidah. That's vidui meiser. And that's hashkifim meikodesh. Hashem, look at me, how brave I am. That's what we say, chazak ve'emat. To step up to the plate, to be moide, not to your chesroinus, to be moide to your milas. That's Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is to take a chrayas for your, but there's ema. There's no denying the emas hadin. But in a way, Yom Kippur is so much safer. In Yom Kippur, you just got to say to Hashem, I'm garnished. And Hashem, and that's the beauty of the Rebbeinu Shalom. He's Hashem and Elokim. You see, Elokim is din, and Hashem is both. He gives me the chance to make the puzzle myself. But he tells me if you don't get around to the puzzle, you can ask me to carry you. And therefore we have, let me add in something interesting here. This is a whole different yisoid in the relationship between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but it's very yisoidistic. It's okay. The way I'm
sure you'll find a connection somehow. So, but this will be your challenge to put it together.
You know, the way we're sort of explaining the relationship now of din and chesed, of rachamim, is the mashal I use. The mashal I use for din and rachamim is like the guy in the circus who walks across the tightrope. So if he does that, he's the melech. You know, he gets all the covet, all the chairs, and the big bucks. He gets the whole thing. He's the guy in the circus. He's the man. But it's so dangerous. You know, you have to be talented and skilled, but you can fall and he can splatter. So what we do is we put under him, we put a safety net. And the safety net will catch him if he falls. And that's the normal way of understanding din and rachamim. That really Hashem wants us to make the puzzle ourselves. To do it al pi din, and then you can sit at the end, you know, when you marry off your last kid, you can come home from the chasna, plop down on the couch, and look at your wife and say, you did it. You know, you can sit at the top of your mountain and know that you with all the hard work. That's din. All the hard work paid off. I made the puzzle. We finished. But that's a long journey. There's so many places to fall off. So we need a safety net to catch up. The problem with that is that it's missing out on half of the understanding of rachamim. You see, the name of rachamim is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Elokim is din, and Yud Kei Vav Kei is rachamim. But if you go through the 13 midos of rachamim, 2 of them are Yud Kei Vav Kei. Hashem. There's 2 rachamims. Rachamim before din and rachamim after din. You know, so what's the 2 rachamims? By the way, I was just speaking to Reb David this week, and I know he's not doing it this week, but I wish he would have. He has a mahalach on all the 13 midas. He has 13 subtle havonis and rachamim, and each one's unique. It's enough to hear that. But let me just tell on these two things. The first two of the midas of rachamim, Hashem. So there's a rachamim before din, the rachamim after din. The rachamim after din is the safety net. So if the goal of the world is din, Hashem created the world for us to be mamlechim, so why does it start with rachamim? Shouldn't the safety net is the perfect image of rachamim. That I like. Try and walk across, and if you fail, then they'll catch you. So, but there's something so deep, is that no, that's the second rachamim. The first shame of Hashem is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Hashem Elokeinu, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. First is Yud Kei Vav. Because you know what the reason why people don't do tightropes? Why aren't people good at tightropes? Why do people either not try or people fall? Anybody can walk, if you're not drunk at least, you can walk a straight line on the ground. So shouldn't you be able to walk the straight line 50, 100, 200 feet in the air? The reason why it's different 200 feet in the air and on the ground is because of the fear that you might fall. The primary reason that people fail at doing puzzles, at life, at din, is because of the emas hadin. So the secret is, you know what the real purpose of the safety net is? Not to catch you when you fall. The safety net allows you, rachamim allows me to face din. Because Hashem will catch me when I fall, now I don't need the net. I'm going to do it myself. I'm not going to be nervous, and I'm going to do it. It's such a powerful thing. It's a very penetrating idea. It's a very nice idea. But the question would be, though, wouldn't that be a false representation of din, because it's not absolute din? You know that even as you're experiencing din, you're not really experiencing din, because you know that if you fail, you're not going to have to suffer the consequences. Someone's going to catch you. So doesn't that mean that it's a good question? It's a great kasha. But I'll tell you, I think the answer is that, think about it, is that the idea of din is that you did it yourself. Did you do this yourself? Did you do the entire avodah? There's nothing that you didn't do. I didn't have any help. It's a fascinating thing, is that you have both. You did it. You did do it al pi din. It's just that you know that Hashem is larger than din. This is the side of the
interesting.
We start Shmoyne Esrei with the following pasuk. Such a beautiful pasuk now. We say Kishem Hashem Ekra Havugoida Leilekenu. The fact that I can cry out to the shame of Hashem, the awareness that Hashem will catch me and do rachamim, that allows me to face Elokim. The main purpose of rachamim is that I can face din, not that I need the rachamim. A good safety net will cause that you never need to use it. Hashem really wants us to do it ourselves, but we can't do it ourselves. The cure for emas hadin is the awareness that Hashem does rachamim. And that's why rachamim has to precede din, and rachamim finishes din. There's the knowledge that Hashem will save me that allows me to do it myself. I can do this. Hashem made a beautiful world that's going to work, and if not, he'll catch me, and then I'll do it. And if not, if I do fall, he'll catch me anyway. And that's the second rachamim.
They're very interesting. Meaning, Rabbi Salanta very famously asks, why do we have Rosh Hashanah before Yom Kippur? It should be the other way, because if after we already have Yom Kippur, we'll be able to be Oimid B'din. What you're saying is, of course, the din has to be first, because that's what a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants, with all its beauty, with all its perfection. But even as we have Rosh Hashanah, we know in the back of our minds, we're dependent on that awareness that the Yom Kippur is also there, that there is such a thing.
So really, your kasha comes back now. So Yom Kippur should come first then. But that's why we call it the Aseres Mei Tshuva. It's all really Nikra al Shem Tshuva. It's all a recovery story. Even the din. Even Rosh Hashanah is Parasai Tshuva. Because
right.
Rosh
You can't,
Hashanah didn't only live.
You can't experience in a human experience. You can't experience the safety net before the tightrope.
Right. Also, I also the side is that I almost can't imagine. You see, this is the idea. Like, how do people who aren't aware of Hashem as a native, Hashem as a Racham, if you're not aware of that, how is it possible to go through life? The world is so scary. The failure is is looming. It's this is also why we speak so much about Nisim. Why we like Pesach night? It's Chodesh Hazeh Lochem Rosh Chodashim. It's the other Rosh Hashanah. It's Chodesh Nisan, right? Well, if we're supposed to do it ourselves, so why is Nisim the beginning? Chodesh Adar should be Nisim, meaning let's try and do it ourselves. If I fail, at the end, the last month of the year, Hashem will catch me in a safety net. Hashem will do magic and He'll save me. But really, I should do it al pidin. Why do we start the year? The Seder and Kriyas Yamsuf and Makos, Klal Yisrael begins with Nisan. And the answer is the same answer, is that we start with the Chodesh of Nisan, not because you want Nisan, but when you know that Hashem does Nisan, then you have the confidence actually to go do it yourself. This is the Yud Kei Vav Kei before Din. The first Hashem, Hashem.
Maybe that's shaykh to the Tosfos with Brias HaOlam b'Machshava, Brias HaOlam b'Sfayal.
Wow.
Interesting with Nisan and with Tishri.
This is
interesting.
This is beautiful. This is the Shaili. That's Valdik. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. You're saying the Machlokes is which one called first then? Does the Taibam come before the Ned or not come before Taibam? Is Rosh Hashanah before Tishrei? Tishrei before? Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Valdik.
Rabbi Feldheim, thank you very, very much. This has been wonderfully insightful. I don't often have such hana from, late night conversations, but this one has been very special. So, Mamish Shekarech, I'm sure that all of our listeners will have a lot of inspiration and a lot of depth from these ideas, and to have a much richer and more more meaningful Yomim and Noraim, HaRav, that we should be able to bring this to the Rabbim.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. We should have mamash ksiva toiva, and we should have a year with all the Seforim, the truas, all the different sorrows, no shidduch crises, no sicknesses, all Hashem. We should be zoichet to hear the Tchiyah Gedolah.
HaRav, Amen. But where it starts? It starts if we're prepared to take the responsibility, like you said. Because if we're not prepared to take the responsibility, nobody else is going to do it for you. So we have to take that responsibility.
Or like you said, maybe it starts with the safety net that allows me to take responsibility. But that's a good machlokes.
Okay.
That's the machlokes. Where does it start?
Okay.
It starts from both places. It definitely starts with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur together. That's why they're two. We have both. Divin Rachamim. They would be zoicha to the Geula Shleim of the Koresh. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, all of us callers. Thank you very much.
And here are the answers to last week's riddle.
Hi, yes, I just want to respond to the riddle about the apparent contradiction between between Mesilas Yesharim, Perek Daled, and the Gemara in Kedushin. The Gemara in Kedushin, the Lashon says, Ibeid es Rishonos. If someone has Chorata on what they did, then they lose. He loses all those good deeds. It doesn't say that they go out of existence. Presumably, they still exist. Maybe I don't know if it's alumnus is like that, but if a mitzvah is a kinyan, so just so you can be mafkir your possessions. So through that attitude, he wishes he hadn't done it. He's mafkir all the good deeds and whatever, but they still very much exist. Spiritually, the binyanim or the levushim that he created, they still exist somewhere. Maybe still give shefa and bracha, presumably to the world in some form, bring about Mashiach, but he has no connection to them. Ibed as Rishonos, he lost his connection to them. Mesilas Yesharim in Perek Daled, he's saying the Chiddush, and he says it in such strong language that he says, and he quotes the pasuk from Yeshaya, Sar avonecha dechatascha tuchul par, your sin will be removed. Shahal avon sar mamish me'amitzius. And you can see Mesilas Yesharim seems aware that that's the Chiddush. Not that, in the first case, the guy lost his connection to his good deeds. They're still existing in the heavenly worlds. Not on his credit, though. But here, mamish sar mehametzius. And in the Rambam, he uses the same language as the Gemara over there in Kedushin, that the person who's tohen mischaret hareze ibet esekulo. He lost it all. The imaskirin lo shum schus ba'olam. The schus doesn't go to him, but it still exists. Mashain came with the Misol Shisharim, where it's mamash, a huge chiddush that literally wiped out of existence. Sholach, thank you so much for all your great work. Rav David, bye-bye.